Every body matters. That's it. That's all. Every body matters. Everyone. Every song matters. Every person matters. Every being matters. But the problem is, how do you live as if that were true? Because what that means is, not only do the protesters on Wall Street matter, but so does the police chief, and so does the executive that works in the company that they are protesting. Because it means that not only do the people of Afghanistan and Iraq matter, but so do the American soldiers and those of other countries who are there killing them. Every body matters. But how do we live that truth? Well, I have a friend to help with this. His name is Joe. And if you can't see, which you probably can't because I can't pass him around here like I did in the early worship, he's a goose. He's a goose who's a little bit worse for the wear because he sat on my dashboard of my car for, about 5 years, squished in between the window, the glass, and the dash. And he's named after a young man that I drove around during my time as a child protection worker. I was one of those people, some of you've heard this before, who went into people's homes when someone had determined that the children were no longer safe and found another place for them to live and tried to work with the families to find them a new place or to get them back. And Joe was one of these. Joe was a throwaway. Joe was someone that most people would have said, he will never amount to anything. Joe was 14 when we met, and it was during a trip to a residential treatment facility after he'd been passed from foster home to foster home, acting out his song of anger and frustration at his mother's mental illness, at his family's incapacity to care for him, at his own inability to control his anger, to express his feelings. It was during a trip to go live in a residential treatment facility that we drove through McDonald's, and Joe ordered a Happy Meal. And inside the Happy Meal was this goose. And he sat with the goose for the rest of the trip, and when we got to the treatment center, unloaded his stuff from the car. I said, "Joe, you forgot your goose." And he said, "You can keep it." This boy, who had everything that he ever owned or would keep in a little suitcase, "You can keep the goose." I said, "Joe, what am I going to do with a goose?" He said, "Well, you drive kids like me around a lot, right?" I said, "Yeah. Maybe you could share it with them. Maybe it would help." He turned his song into one of hope. A 14-year-old who was able to see beyond his own circumstances, or maybe it was partially him saying, I'm 14, I'm a boy, I don't need a stuffed goose. But I chose and choose to read it as somebody who was choosing how to sing their song, claiming the fact that his body mattered, and so did those other children's, who would ride in the back of my car, screaming, crying, angry, frustrated, impotent, furious, sad. And so, Joe the goose would get passed to the back seat and mouthed by infants, thrown by toddlers, dismissed by the older kids. Each of us has the capacity to turn our song into something like that every day. And each of us has the capacity, the invitation to listen to the person nearest us and the person across the globe from us, as though they too are in the process of turning that song of pain and anger into something that bridges the gap, something that can help, something that can bring healing and hope. Each body matters. Every body matters. But it's not just up to us to decide what to do with our body, right? I mean, that's part of the rub. It's not just me in this on my own. This summer, I decided I was going to get this great big tattoo all across my back. I got it designed by a friend. I have it drawn out. It's hanging in my office. I'm ready for it. My husband, Chad, said, "You're going to get what? Where?" I mean, I've already got a few others, but they're discreet and they're small, and this is going to take up a lot of space. And I think he's doing the reverse psychology thing on me because he's not talking about it much. I think he thinks it'll just eventually die away. But was I talking to Fred about this tattoo? And Fred said, "Well, what does Chad say?" And I said, "What does Chad have to say? It's my body." And Fred said, "Oh, you haven't been married very long, have you?"